Hi guys, welcome back to the James Bond Show. I'm your host, Krazy Kajeevie, with no fears, limits or substitutes. The bad boy of James Bond is back with my saffron mask, which I'll take off. So guys, what am I doing in this video? Well, exactly a year to this day, November 11th, 2021, I went and finally saw No Time to Die. They had finished filming No Time to Die at the end of 2019. And as we all know, because of what happened in the world, the film was literally delayed for almost 2 years. Finally, got to see it, but it was probably about 8 weeks after the rest of the world had seen it. And the film had already made around $630 million by the time I got to go and see it. So I was almost the last James Bond fan on the planet to get to go and see it, as far as James Bond fans here in Australia is concerned. Now, probably about an hour and a half after I saw it a year ago from this day, I did a review video, a quick review video. I then saw the film again, saw it twice, and I did my full review. I will put my full review in the links to this video so you guys can go and check out that review and see how I've changed. If you care to do that, please go ahead and check that out. So, when I did my first review, I lost probably about 10 subscribers in the first 5 to 10 minutes of that review being uploaded. And my sin was, I said that I loved the film. Now, a lot of people probably expected, because I'm the bad boy of James Bond, and I had been dumping on what I had seen and the predictions I came up with that became fact through 2019, that I spoke out very vocally. I think a lot of people who drew to me and my channel as this right-wing guy that's going to stand up against a woke film, they felt betrayed by that. However, once I did my full review video, a lot of those subscribers came back. Well, the numbers certainly shot up with my subscription list, because people realized that I did give a honorable, non-biased film review, and I gave credit where credit's due, and I will always do that. Now remember guys, I'm never paid off. I make no money from making these videos. I get no gifts from Eon, no gifts from anyone. I'm a small channel, an honest channel, and I've lost a lot of subscribers, or potentially new subscribers, because I will always speak the truth no matter who it offends. And you guys know that about me. I'm fearless. I can't be bought. I'm just honest, and I will always say the honest truth from my, my thoughts and my views. So, with that guys, a year on, how do I feel about No Time to Die? Do I still feel the same? Now, in preparation for this video, I did watch it again today. I sat and I watched the whole thing. I had an intermission, went and had a coffee, did a few other things, and then went back to it. I watched it from the very start, right up to where Bond goes to Norway to meet Madeline, had an intermission there, and went back to it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you my thought. Instead of holding this back and making you wait to the end of the video, I'm not going to be sneaky to make you stay here. I hope you do stay here, but what I'm going to do is tell you how I feel about the film. And then what I hope you listen to is I'm going to tell you why I feel certain ways about the film, and the good about the film, and what I see potentially as the bad of the film, or things that could have been corrected and changed. Now, I am going to start off with something that I feel, and I never want to talk down to my subscribers or anyone. Even if you're not a subscriber here, I hope you do subscribe, because no one's always going to agree with you, and I don't expect you guys to always agree with me, but it's opinions, and we all have the right to an opinion. But what I am going to do, first leading off, is I'm going to give you probably something you may not have ever thought about, and that's this. And wait, and hold on to your seatbelts, because when I say it, you might be a bit shocked and go, Krazy's lost his mind. Okay, here's the thing, guys. This was the fastest James Bond film ever made. And you're like, what? What are you talking about, Krazy? Spectre finished at the end of, they released that at 2015. Filmed that then. We didn't get this film to 2021. Now, okay, hear me out here. No Time to Die finished filming at the end of 2019, right? Because of the pandemic, it didn't come out until the end of 2021, right? So you're thinking, where's this quick, fast turnaround? Okay, now this is where I'm going to prove this point 100% right. And with this, I hope you start to think about the massive scope and scale and work that went into this film. Remember, Danny Boyle left the project, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, guys. He left the project in August 2018, right? Cary Fukunaga, I believe, came on, I think it was from August, September, I think October. I think by October 2019, okay? Now, we can check those later and we'll put the exact details in the comments, but it's around that time. So I believe Danny Boyle, it was either maybe July or August 2018. Fukunaga's on board by October 2018. So August, September, we're talking 2 to 3 months. I think it was 2 months. They've got a new director on board. Guess when they started filming? Now, you guys will remember that the Jamaica stuff and the announcement all happened around, it was around, from memory, March, April. I think it was around March, April, okay, 2019. No Time to Die actually started filming in January 2019. So have a look at when Fukunaga came on. 2018, let's say October, okay? October, November, December, January. 3 months later, they're filming No Time to Die. 3 months. Because they first started filming in Norway. They've got the production going. They're building the incredible sets by Mark Tilsley. Okay? And then they start full on that second unit, but then they're starting full on principal photography March, April 2019, and they go all the way through to September 2019. That is considering Danny Boyle walked away from the project, which we now believe, and what I always said was the case, he didn't want to kill James Bond. Now, it's never 100% been confirmed, but it kind of has been confirmed. Read into that. That's another video for another time. But if you have a look at the issues they had, and we don't fully know what script they went to, how much they had to write of the new script, but it appears that John Hodges' script and what Danny Boyle was working on was a completely different script from what Cary Fukunaga then worked on. And people say that Danny Boyle, he walked away from No Time to Die. Well, he didn't. Because from what we know, No Time to Die didn't exist with Danny Boyle. It existed from Cary Fukunaga. And that's why they got a bunch of different script writers on board. Now, possibly they went back to the original Purvis and Wade screenplay. That's never fully been confirmed either. Now, I do have the making of the No Time to Die book. I don't know if all of this information is in there because, to be honest, I haven't read my whole way through it, which I'd love to do. But I hope I get his name right. I think from memory it's Charles, I think it's Helfenstein, the guy that did the great books, The Making of the Living Daylights and On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Now, I have the making of the Living Daylights. I don't have the On Her Majesty's Secret Service one, but I know he goes through incredible detail because I have read the Living Daylights one. I hope he has to make, it's a massive undertaking for him, but I hope he does the making of No Time to Die. I really do, so we can really get to the nitty gritty of what happened. So keep that in mind. They gave us a $275 million epic spectacle in a matter of months. Can you say that about any Bond film, let alone any film ever? So what they did is they went balls to the wall, and that's why they were writing on set during filming, even as scenes are being filmed, writing's going on. And that's why Phoebe Waller-Bridge went to the set a lot, okay? So keep that in mind before you keep your criticism of this film. So how do I feel about the film? How did I feel about it after my 8th viewing? So it was exactly viewing number 8 today. So you may think, Crazy, how come you've only watched it 8 times in exactly 12 months today? The reason is I find it's a film that you have to sit down and fully be ready for and give it that time, that 100 and what is it, 100 I think 63 minutes that you have to sit and watch it, or is it 143? 163, isn't it, guys? So you've got to be prepared to give it that time. It's not a film like Moonraker or Octopussy that you put on in the background while you're doing the dishes, cleaning up, etc. It's not that type of film. And I also am going to be very religious with this film, that I've got a little diary and I keep written down every time I've seen the film. So I don't want to see part of it and then the other part of it 2 days later, stuff like that. I want to know 10, 20 years on exactly the number of times I've seen the film. So how did I feel about the film today? I freaking love this film. Nothing has changed for me in the big scale of my feelings for No Time to Die. Nothing has changed. I love this film. And I think if I delay screenings of it and I give myself time to ponder it, to think about it and miss it, I think that's probably why I love it every time I see it. And I keep finding new things about it. Now, particularly in this viewing, which I'll get into a bit more later, I really loved the character more of Safin and really found out more about his motivation. Now, like I said, the film's got great things and the film does have some bad things. So you could say in structure, Casino Royale, as far as a 3-part structure, Casino Royale is the better Daniel Craig Bond film. As a filmmaker, I look at that structure and I think, yes, that's the better film. But is Casino Royale my favourite film, and do I put it above No Time to Die? So what is my favourite Daniel Craig film? No Time to Die is my favourite Daniel Craig film with a bullet. Now, that was my exact comment nearly a year ago, after probably about 5 days after the movie had come out. Then I did my big review video. And that is when I said that No Time to Die was my favourite Daniel Craig James Bond film. That hasn't changed. It is my favourite Daniel Craig Bond film. Do I think that Casino Royale is probably better in structure? Like I said, yeah. But I enjoy No Time to Die because it moves faster, there's more action, there's more to see, and that 163-minute runtime is the best. Especially the first 2 acts of the film just move like gravy pouring over my steak, baby. I'm just ready to eat it and it's just coming on nicely and the taste doesn't get sour. That first 2 acts. And then the 3rd act for me is still brilliant, which I'm really going to get into at the end of this review. So let's look at let's look at the good and what I love about No Time to Die. First of all, I think it's got the best pre-title sequence ever made. It is magical. What they did with Safin going to Madeline's home, killing her mother, is just sublime. Yes, a few things, it's like, is he wearing, may not make sense. Is he wearing a bulletproof vest under there? Was he Dr. No? 100% to me he was Dr. No. Why do I bring that up now? I bring it up because he's got a bullet on his right side, and we know that, so when I say right, I mean right side here, we know that Dr. No's heart is not on his left side, he's on his right side, and that's where he's got a bullet hole right there, and he still gets up and survives. So that's one of the reasons why I think he's Dr. No. The cinematography in the pre-title sequence and in the first part in Norway, when he's going to Madeline's house, we get stunning vistas, beautiful wide-angle shots, even when Safin's shooting through the ice and he's trying to save young Madeline. We get wide-angle shots, and the colour palette by Linus Sundgren, the cinematographer, is absolutely gorgeous. The soundtrack is incredible. The editing is incredible. I still get a bit challenged by the fact he's shooting, boom, 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 boom. It looks like he's going to hit her. And in ways it looks like, hey, is he trying to kill her? Well, obviously not, because he does reach down and grab her, and then that takes us to a juxtaposed scene of Madeline as she's older, and she comes up out of the water, and Bond comes along. He's like, are you okay? And she's like, yes, and they go along. Now, when they're in the mountains of material driving in the DB5, and we have a blend of Billie Eilish's song, the theme part of that, with We Have All the Time in the World. When I saw that at the cinema, first time, and I saw it in gold class, I was sitting there, guys, and I'm like, oh, this is juicy. It had me hooked. And then, of course, before, it's not too long, we're in an unbelievable action scene. And I will say, in the Daniel Craig era, we've been blessed with fantastic pre-title sequences. There's not a bad pre-title sequence in the Daniel Craig era. One thing I don't like is when, after they get out of the DB5 and they're walking along, and she says, you're looking over your shoulder, which I think is great, but you can really tell when Phoebe Waller-Bridge's dialogue is there. I can 100%, I will bet my entire Bond collection, I can pick out like every little moment that I go, that's Waller-Bridge, that I'm going to be right on it. And I'll give you an example where Bond says, are we going to row about this? That's not Purvis and Wade. That's not their dialogue. That's not Scott Z. Burns as well. That's not Fukunaga. That's Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And I don't think that part is needed. I actually hate that line of dialogue. The reason I hate it, it's completely out of place because we've got this romantic thing, we've got this support with the two characters, and right after that line, once they go into their room, boom, they're kissing, passionate, and they make love, right? So that line there, with that little bit of conflict, I always find very distracting. I've never liked it, and I still don't like it. But then eventually we get to the pre-title sequence, or we're in the pre-title sequence, and he's at Vesper's grave, and he says, I miss you. Now, he's still getting over his demons there, right? He also says prior to going there, he says to Madeline, I've made peace with that, basically. It's done and gone. But obviously there's a little bit of hurt there, and he feels that he betrayed her. That's why he wrote on that little bit of paper, forgive me. And then the explosion happens with the grave, and the sound design there is stunning. And yeah, rightfully you can think, how the heck could Bond survive that massive explosion? But what we get from there is stunning. So I love the action. I'll move forward a little bit with this, guys, but I love the action. The cinematography, I love. The sound design is incredible in the film. The production design is incredible. I love the fact that this baby, the DB5, is used so well and finally used in a big epic car chase without horrible CGI and rear projection. It's just, everything looks so real. So kudos to the filmmakers, especially the second unit director on this film, who I believe should direct Bond 26 for sure. And I have done a video on that as well. If you haven't seen it, check that out. The performances also are incredible. But what I love so much is the film just moves and moves and moves. We get to see Bond in Jamaica, okay, after a fantastic pre-title sequence, and the song. The song by Billie Eilish and her brother Phineas is not a song I go to listen to as a Bond song. But within the context of the film, it really, really suits. Then we go to Jamaica. Then we're in Cuba with Paloma. She's grown on me. Now, I did say in my original review a year ago that she's great, but I didn't love her probably as much as everyone, raved on about. After my 8th time seeing it today, she was a blessing in it. She's really grown on me. Not even her dialogue and everything, which has, but she's beautiful. She's just stunning. She's fun, she's cute, and now, yeah, I do see why people really wanted more of her. And you know what? A year ago I said this. I would love to see, and I just think they should do it. Give it to Greg, or who, the Williams, what's his name? Wilson's son. Give it to them to cut their teeth on a standalone independent film with Paloma. Why not? It doesn't have to be massive budget. Make it for about $45 million, right? Get a good director who can put that money, even 50, put it up on the screen for a lower budget with a great story. I would pay to go and see that because she's really, really engaging. If an actress can do that much with not much on the page and do it within a 10-minute scene, what can they do in an entire feature film? So they're the things I loved, and I'm going to get now to the big elephant in the room. Two elephants in the room. I'm going to get to Nomi first, and I'm going to then get to James Bond's death, and then after that, things I still don't quite like about the film. My biggest thing that has changed on my opinion on this film is I did say in my original review, which I listened back to today as well. I actually listened to it twice while I was doing cleaning up. Now, in that, I said I didn't mind Nomi. She was okay. She has grated on me terribly over the years, over this year, the 8 viewings. I think her character, even though it sets up the fun banter with Bond, her character basically comes across like a jealous, Me Too, BLM, narcissistic brat. And she just is grating. Where she's putting on the Jamaican stuff, like need a ride and all that, she's fun and she seems cool. Once the wig comes off and Bond realizes she's a 00, she becomes a petulant brat. And that scene where she says to Bond, "Oh, and do you know what number I am? I'm not any 00, I'm 007. That is literally Barbara Broccoli doing that to the fans, especially the white British heterosexual males. I feel she's doing that to us, and there's no need to it. To me, it was like baiting the fan base that loves your films, that loves this character, and I did kind of think that a year ago, and I'm as strong as ever on that. I find that her character was really terribly used for the most part. And as I did touch on a year ago, even after we see a good side to her and she gives the 007 designation number, she designates it back or asks him permission to give it back to 007 and he says yes. Even after that, when they get into what I call the Switchblade plane, I remember hearing the name, what Q calls it. I can't remember. Let me know in the comments below, guys, what he calls it. And it's a terrible name, what he gives it. So I'm going to stick to Switchblade. And then she's in that. And they make Bond the backseat passenger. I never liked it. I never liked it in the trailer. And I still don't like it. Because remember, Bond called for Q for that plane. He called for a big plane. And he called for a plane that he would need to get to that island. He gets the Switchblade from Q. And who's flying it? Nomi. Why is she flying it? She should be flying it. And then her attitude when Bond politely says, "Have you ever flown one of these before?" She's like, "Nope." Again, still this attitude. And it is pathetic. She is if there's a weak part to this film, it's her. So that is kind of my bad part of this film. I think they should have made her a more confident person that doesn't need to constantly fight with Bond to prove herself. She should have been proving herself through her ability. Now also, when her mission was to track down Ash, she failed in that. She pretty much failed in everything she did. And the more I watch it, the worse it kind of makes her look. So that's a bad point. Now, I'm going to get to the big elephant in the room. I'm going to get to the daughter in a minute, but I'm going to get to the death of James Bond. And hopefully, without arrogance or anything or putting anyone down, because I love my subscribers, I'm going to get to what I think some people have got really wrong. Okay. When Daniel Craig signed on for Casino Royale, which has now come out as truth, he said to Barbara Broccoli, "If I come on and do this, and I'm this character for a whole bunch of years, I want him to die." She agreed with it. If you agree to something in life, you got to stick to it. Now, was the death of James Bond warranted? Yes. 100%. They had to kill him off. And I'll tell you why. There's several reasons. I'm going to detail this for you, so stick with me here. They needed to kill him off because of a few reasons. Daniel Craig, he made the deal with Barbara Broccoli. She had to stick to it. The second reason is it completely finishes and makes sense in his story arc. If he is left alive, and I'm going to get to character elements in a moment, but if there's any hint that, he could have escaped the island, then the audience, especially after he's been stabbed in the face with that. Now remember, when Safin gets to the island. You see Valdo give him the vial. That vial is the vial that he stabs Bond with. Madeline says to him, "What is that?" He looks at her and he says, "Insurance." That insurance is those two dead if he has to use this. And he ends up using it, scratching Bond in the face. The nanobots, and people have made excuses about them. Now, I've done a horrible video recently, horrible in terms of realizing that they actually have DNA nanobots. It's a real weapon, so they didn't make this up for the film. And it is a very real weapon, which is horrific, thinking they could do this for real, okay? So when you factor that in, that this thing is now real, please watch my video on that, guys. I'll put that in the information section within this video too, so go and check that video out, okay? Those are on him. They're eternal. It's a virus, but it is like, it's a computer type virus. It's a nanoparticle virus that goes from people to people. Now, there was one thing Q said, which he said earlier, "Oh, it's eternal." And then he gives Bond hope. He says this lie. I can't remember his exact line, but I picked up on this today. And it was basically like he almost hinted at Bond, "Oh no, you'll be fine. You can get off the island," etc. I'll get back to that. I'll find out that line and I'll put it in the comment section. But Bond knows it's bullshit and Q's kind of trying to give him hope. The fact is, he cannot get off that island. As I said in the video a year ago, it's 6 degrees of separation. He could go to Jamaica, he could go to the ends of the earth, he could go to Australia. And that virus will go to someone and go to someone and go to someone. They don't die. Once he touches someone, it's on them. Once they touch someone, it's on them. And then it will spread right across the world and it will kill Madeline. And it will kill Mathilde. They are dead ski if he stays alive. So, also, he's bleeding to death. He got shot, I counted it, 7 times. They should have had more blood and more bullet holes on the back of him. You see one on the arm, you see one on the back of the shoulder, you see them in his thigh, you see one, I think, up this area as well. And then he got shot in the front as well. Okay, I think it was 2 times. And he shot Safin 3 times in the head. And that fight, even though quite brief, was absolutely brutal. And it was basically the filmmakers telling you he's going to die anyway. So why risk trying to stay alive? Now, the key reason they needed to kill him off, and one of my subscribers here, Elvie, hey Elvie Towers, she said she only seen the film once. I'm encouraging her to see it again and again and again, and you pick up more things. But see it by watching Casino Royale first and go through the Bond films, and it makes so much more sense when you watch them through, which I've done, okay? Trust me on that. Do that. So she's like, "Oh, they should have found a way, to keep him alive or to make it look like he was alive." No, because then people are going to say, "Well, Daniel Craig could come back." And the key reason, which I said to her I would explain more, is the Daniel Craig era has to be done for the sake of the James Bond franchise to move forward. Now, why do I say that? Because if they gave a hint that his Bond could come back alive, and the actor that plays James Bond in Bond 26 is now going to be limited. He has to then, or he would then have to, have a wife, Madeline, or ex-wife, right? He then has to have a daughter, okay? Then all of those characters all stay in, and it would not make sense. It would limit what they could do with the character. And also, the nanobots are still on him, so there's no way of getting around it. It's done. They filmed it. They released it. He's been hit with those eternal nanobots, okay? So there's no way around that. And Kerry Fukunaga said he killed Bond off with the missiles, so no one could say, "Oh, he could have survived." But still, and not Elvie, but one numpty, there's a couple of absolute numpties out there that said, "Oh, but he could have escaped. Oh, but he could have this. Or maybe he escaped." You don't escape missiles blowing you apart. He's dead. And for all the right reasons, Bond can't have a family. And even in the great documentary, Everything or Nothing, Barbara Broccoli in that said, James Bond can't have a wife. He can't have a child and survive and be the same James Bond we know. And that was what, filmed, I think, 6-7 years ago. So she laid it out then. And that's why he had to die, or else he retires, right? He would have to be retired. We wouldn't have James Bond, the secret agent, because he couldn't do what he does with his family. Because it's proven within that he has his family and that they are a danger to him, or he is a danger to them. Okay? They put him at risk and he puts them at risk. So killing him made perfect sense. And it was the most sacrificial lamb thing James Bond could do. And that ending, I'll be honest, I bawled like a child. Every time I've seen it, all 8 times, I have cried. And I just, at the end of it, when Louis Armstrong's We Have All the Time in the World comes on, oh my goodness, I'm a little bitch. I'm a little girl, but this one massive tear just came down here, boom, right down my cheek and dripped off. And that is what I love about this film. Let it go, guys. It's not Connery. It's not Moore. It's not Brosnan. It's not Dalton. It's not Lazenby. 62 to 2002 is there. This is a separate story, a separate arc, and just see it for the big action, emotional spectacle, and brave filmmaking that it is, trying to do different things. And also, if you go back, which I've done recently a lot, to read the novels, right? When you read the novels, Daniel Craig's James Bond is so akin to those novels, including, as I've said numerous times now, including Bond having a child, though in the novels it was a boy, and it looking like Bond died at the end of You Only Live Twice, okay, only to come back later in Man with the Golden Gun. So it is a very Ian Fleming James Bond film, and I believe that my personal opinion is that Ian Fleming would love this film, that he would really have loved this film. And I also think Roger Moore, who loved Casino Royale and he loved Skyfall, I'm not 100% sure. I don't think he was fully big fan of Spectre. I'll have to do more research on that. But I think Sir Rog, as I call him, I think he would have loved this film as well. It is an emotional, beautiful film. Now, I did say I would discuss the bad. I've done Nomi, gone there. Some of the bad that I think is obviously with Nomi, but with Safin also. I think Safin grew on me so much even more, and I actually love him as a character. Is there a weakness to his reasoning? Yes, there still is, but the more I watch it, I pick up little things. And when he's talking to Bond about being tidier, he actually said the world needs to evolve. He wants it to evolve in a way that fits in his mind, because he's obviously very disturbed from what happened to him at birth. He wants it to be cleaner in terms of smaller environment, and that's why he's into, and I believe they got rid of a lot of environmental crap out of this film, because there was a lot of stories about algae and all this stuff, and I think they've probably cut a lot of crap out of this film, which has probably been a good thing, but it's probably because I believe they've done that, it has cut out, and the fact that I think originally he was Dr. No, they've definitely cut out backstory there, okay? 100% they've cut out backstory there, but he still wants to make the world smaller, cleaner, because he believes that humans have a debt on society, on nature. There's no doubt about that. So go back and listen to his dialogue again. Now, also, one of the complaints that people talk about is, why does he let Mathilde walk away? And people go, that makes no sense. Well, they should have shown more reasons why he was in love with Madeline, because he was clearly in love with Madeline. He says to Bond, I could be looking in a mirror, James Bond, who loves Madeline, who kills people, blah, blah, blah. And he says to Bond, you can take your bombs and take her and go. He wants Madeline. That's why he lets Mathilde go. That's why he lets her walk off. She's also no threat to him. He doesn't feel... she walks off, he walks away, but have a look again. He looks back at her. He looks back and he sees her walking off. She's not what he wants. He wants Madeline. That's why he let her go. Now, one thing I think they got wrong as well, in the trailers for the film and TV spots, you see him in the helicopter. They should have showed him in that helicopter just prior, so we know as the audience he's coming for them. Then we see him later walk along after she's shot one guy. He walks along. Why does she not shoot at him? And she should shoot at him. And I think the reason she doesn't shoot him, and we don't see any confrontation between them, I think it's because the filmmakers are trying to tell us she's got feelings for him. And I think that's where they should have pushed that more. And how they could have done that is he could have said to her later, you could have killed me, Madeline. They should have showed her hold the gun up at him, right? And then she puts it down, and then we cut to them in the helicopters or them at the base later. And then he could have said to her, you could have killed me. Why didn't you? Admit it. You feel for me the way I feel for you. You know, hinting at their past has given them a bond. But also, when he's in the room with her, when we first see him with her, sitting down and he hands her the box and she opens it up and she sees the mask, right? He says that when you save a life, you're always going to be connected to that person. And they could have worked with that more, and they didn't. So that is kind of one of the bad things. Now, in finishing in this video, I love the film. Where does it sit in my rankings? A year ago, I said it's probably never going to go out of my top 3. My top 3 prior to No Time to Die was a draw. I've always had a draw between License to Kill and For Your Eyes Only as my favourite Bond films. And Dr. No sitting in second. So those two first, Dr. No second, and there's No Time to Die fighting for second. Literally. It's fighting. I'll leave it at 3 for now, but it's in my top 3. I love this film. And I'm probably not going to watch it as much as I will License to Kill or Dr. No, etc. Or maybe Octopussy or Goldeneye, films that I love watching. Because when I watch it, I just want to give everything to it. Give my mind, my time, everything to what I think is an astonishing James Bond film. And the producers and the director, they threw everything at this film. So please, guys, see it again, watch it again, but I recommend watch it in a marathon and see it as a Daniel Craig James Bond film, not a 1962 to 2002. And one more thing I want to say. If you're going to pick out the holes in No Time to Die, and yes, there are some, I'm not arguing with that, 100%. If you're going to pick those holes out, and you love, which I know a lot of you, I won't name you, but there's a fair few of you that love Die Another Day, then pick the holes out on that film. Because Die Another Day has got, and I know it's a film people are warming to now 20 years later, and I'm going to do a review of Skyfall 10 years later, coming up very soon, and Die Another Day 20 years later. So I'm going to review those films again, okay? I'm going to not review them, but I'm going to talk about them as in how do I see them now 10 and 20 years on respectively. But if you love Skyfall and you love Die Another Day or Quantum of Solace, are you prepared to pick it apart the way you are to No Time to Die? And I think the answer is no. And the main problem with No Time to Die, everyone comes back to, oh, they shouldn't have killed James Bond. Bullshit. There is no reason why they shouldn't kill Bond in that story arc, that era, okay? There's no reason why. If they did it with Die Another Day, or even they did it in Quantum of Solace, or they did it, it wouldn't have made sense. If they did it in For Your Eyes Only, whatever, it wouldn't have made sense. But in this confined period, and this is why they needed to kill him off, so people can't say, oh, well, that's Daniel Craig's Bond, he's back, blah, blah, blah. No. So hopefully you guys appreciate this video. Please drop a like on it. Please subscribe. I know it may grate on you. I know you may still think, oh, but listen to my reasonings on this. It is a big, fantastic film. Go back, give it another go. And I gave it 5 stars last time. To me, this is still a beautiful, big, stunning James Bond film. I don't like Naomi in it. I wish they kind of cut her out or at least changed her a bit. But other than that, I love this film. Keep on bonding, guys, and say hi to your mum for me. See you later. Don't forget to comment.